Call of Duty World at War is renowned, especially now, as a game of a great historical accuracy. But as we discussed before, although this game is authentic, it is not very historically accurate. But today we change that as we embark on the hundreds of great current and future details and corrections made in the historical accuracy Fall of Berlin series of mods. We start first in the Pacific Theater with the Semper Fi modification during the Makin Island raid, where we will straight away notice the uniform change of Karl's Marine Raiders, or the 2nd Marine Raider Battalion. Instead of the anachronistic camo uniform not introduced until a year after this mission, we see them correctly wearing the unique black-dyed USMC P1941 HBT uniforms, which were actually worn for this nighttime operation. We also see that their anachronistic 1944 USMC utility caps are removed and replaced with green camo helmets mixed with regular ones, which is accurate to the actual raiders. They also have yellow grenades. This matches up with the fact that pre-World War II high explosive build MK2s were painted bright yellow. As you can imagine, this proved quite troublesome on the battlefield, as the enemy would easily be able to spot and avoid or throw back the grenades at the US forces. This led to them being changed in 1943 to just have a small yellow indicator band on them instead. All teammates throughout the campaign will receive increased accuracy to show that they are actually trained soldiers and not terrible buffoons like in the base game. And on top of this, we get new unique face models, more surname variation, and the addition of the private first class rank for all Marines. Now for the Japanese forces, instead of the base game's army troops, they are now Navy soldiers to correspond with the 51st Guard Force of the 6th Yokosuka Special Naval Force, who were stationed on Makin Island during the actual raid. Moving on to the even further brilliant modifications of the Pacific Theater, we can see the Marines of the 1st Marine Division wearing more authentic greenish uniforms as well as accurate new beach camo helmets. Just like how these mod developers went out of their way to remove the medical insignia for the corpsmen to accurately depict how it was recommended to not be worn as it only made them stand out to enemy forces, powerful as in the increased damage output among certain weapons, particularly with the semi-automatic weapons, to match with the power of their real-life counterparts. Similar to how this game's mod is commendable for correcting the name of the M1A1 carbine into the M1 carbine and changing the ammo and magazine capacity of the M1A1 Thompson, M1897 trench gun, Type 99 and M1911 to match their real life counterparts. Before appreciating that this mod adds that teammates using LMGs will now correctly have support gunner on their name tag overlays, and the reload time of the M9 bazooka is adjusted to be more accurately longer, and noting that this mod includes more realistic custom textures for weapons like the Arasaka Type 100, M1 carbine, M1897 and BAR. For the Imperial Japanese Army troops, which are based on the 14th Infantry Division for the Peleliu missions and the 32nd Army for the Okinawa missions, they receive further uniform modifications. The M-Sign infantry and tank chest marking is now removed to match with the fact that this insignia stopped being worn after 1940. A new helmet with headband for Japanese in the Okinawa missions is added, as well as changes in details to the regular headband, since the vanilla one seems to be more suitable with kamikaze pilots rather than ground forces. They also receive loadout changes, particularly with the upping of the amount of Arasaka rifles and Type 99 LMGs, together with the lessening of numbers of Type 100s, since the Type 100 was actually quite rare during World War II, with only a few thousand of them ever being in service at that time. The dates shown in Black Cats, as well as Blowtorch and Corkscrew's intro, are now removed, since they do not match up with the Operation Kokusi and the capturing of Warner Ridge that they are trying to depict in the vanilla game. And for the Pacific Campaign's final mission, Breaking Point, we have a colour change of Shuri Castle to match its actual colour during that time, since the original castle seemed to be based on the 1992 reconstruction in the base game, and the Japanese mortars we capture will now be based on the Japanese Type 100 81mm mortars rather than the American M43A1 81mm mortars. Now moving on to everybody's favourite, the Eastern Front campaign. We begin in Vendetta, the Battle of Stalingrad. Firstly, we can notice minor changes to the Soviet troops of the 62nd Army, such as the removal of buttons on the uniform collar to make it more resemble the era-appropriate M35 uniform tunic, as well as the change of Brezhnev's collar to now have the correct 1940 to 1943 version of sergeant rank insignia. We also see the replacement of the Commissioner's star belt buckle on all the Red Army soldiers with a more appropriate standard buckle, along with new ranks for Soviet troops such as Yefreuter and Junior Sergeant, and the removal of the Corporal, as well as more variations to surname and face models. Now for the German 6th Army, we have greener tunics for hair troops, to more accurately depict the mix of grey and green field grau colour of their uniforms. We also have further variations for German models, helmet and rank insignia so that they're not all just privates like they were in the base game, the removal of the M43 field cap which had not been introduced yet in Stalingrad, the removal of the tricolour insignia of the German Empire which had stopped being worn after 1940, new textures for gear like German knives, and of course much needed face variations and a slightly better uniform for General Amsel. As for weapons, we have the addition of the Soviet DP-28, which name was also changed into DP-27, as DP-28 is a name that is widely known among Westerners, but Russians usually prefer to call it DP-27. We also have the introduction of the Kart 98K with a scope, new scoped overlays for the scoped Mauser Nugant, changed from the vanilla version into a proper German number 1 version, since Soviet factions actually use the same scope overlay as the German side during the war, while the Kart 98K with scope will use the German number 4 instead. New or modified textures for some weapons like the Kart 98K, MP40, MG42, Molotov cocktails, Mauser Nugant, PPSH-41, FVT-40, PTRS, and DP-27 have been added, and we will see some of the German soldiers will be equipped with captured PPSH-41s and a few FVT-40s as well, to match how this would often happen in reality on the Eastern Front. On top of this, we have 71st Infantry Division insignia and a period accurate Dunkelgrau, German for dark grey, textures and German SD KFZ 251 half trucks, 24th Panzer Division insignia and Dunkelgrau texture for Panzer IVs, along with Dunkelgrau textures for open blitz trucks and flak 88s, and best of all, the anachronistic wrecks of the Tiger II tanks, not introduced until 1944, have been replaced with more accurate Panzer IV wrecks instead. Now for the rest of the Eastern Front campaign, which will be played mostly by the main mod of this series, Fall of Berlin, things get even more detailed, particularly in the German units, as we now see more variations of Heer soldiers in both the Battle of Seelow Heights and Berlin, which are based on multiple actual units, such as the 309th Infantry Division, the 25th Panzer Grenadier Division in Seelow Heights, the Panzer Division Muckeberg, 18th Panzer Grenadier Division and 20th Panzer Grenadier Division in both Seelow Heights and Berlin. We also see the introduction of SS units, which were created, along with other units, by using original cut content from the game's main version. They are based on the foreign volunteered 11 SS Nordland Panzer Grenadier Division, mostly comprised of Scandinavian SS mixed with Belgium/Flemish and some Eastern European countries, hence the flag insignia which represents the Norway and Denmark regiments under arms. This unit existed in both Seelow and Berlin battles. The 1st SS Anhalt Regiment, and those who were filled into Kampfgruppe Munke and Babik in Berlin, a part of Panzer Division Muckeberg which was originally SS personnel, around 600 SS men from the 1st SS Leibstarderte Division in Berlin, other foreign volunteer units like a company of Latvian SS from the 15th SS Waffen Grenadier Division, and the French SS of the SS Storm Battalion Charlemont, along with some other various SS units in Berlin. Also, it is important to note that the models with French insignia will appear only in Eviction, as to represent the French SS that participated in the defense of central Berlin. However, they won't appear in the later Reichstag mission due to the fact that what was left of them were actually defending the Reich Chancellery area at that time and not the Reichstag, which is largely misunderstood by several history enthusiasts. We also have Volkssturm units, which were also cut content. These were fresh recruits of undertrained and under-equipped armed citizens.
The old, the young, the weak,
as Reznov refers to them, based on several Volkssturm units in Seelow and Berlin who will also receive older and younger looking face models. Additionally, there is also Hitler Youth, based on several Hitler Jungen units in Seelow and Berlin. Note that the younger looking facial models are used in this unit. And on top of this, we also have Fallschirmjäger paratroopers, based on paratroopers of the 9th Fallschirmjäger Division, as well as Luftwaffe Air Force Infantry, based on those who were filled into the Axis defending force in both Seelow and Berlin battles. Speaking of which, the actual existence of these Luftwaffe units in the northern parts of Berlin during the beginning phase of the Battle of Berlin is the reason why you need to install the Ring of Steel, Abandon All Hope mod to play the Ring of Steel mission, since the mod will feature quite a lot of Luftwaffe units, which were also mixed in with others like Heer and Volkssturm units as well. We will also see a few soldiers of the Feldjägerkorps, which was a military police organization formed in the later stages of the war to curb the mounting amount of desertation and to maintain discipline in the Wehrmacht. And finally, we have a Kriegsmarine Naval Infantry, based on the Großadmiral Donitz Battalion, which were sent by the Grand Admiral himself and reached Berlin on April 25th and 26th. They will only feature in the Reichstag mission, as based on certain historical information, which suggests that they are one of the Reichstag defenders together with SS and some other units as well. Also note that the SS Honor Guard uniform has been removed to make room for Hitler Youth and Naval Infantry units. plus the fact that black honor guard uniforms had already been phased out since 1942 and replaced by regular field SS tunics. For the Soviet 3rd Shock Army troops, we see that they have further variation, such as wool padded jackets, which is one of their winter uniforms, which you may think should not be the case since these missions take place during late spring. However, looking at real historical photos and videos proves this to be the case. Reznov now has a new M43 uniform style color tab, and of course we also have further variations of facial models with the addition of Asian soldiers to acknowledge the Asian ethnic minorities in the Red Army. Now for the weapons, on top of the aforementioned points in Vendetta, we will see the introduction of the FG42 with a scope, an upping of the amount of Kar 90 AKs being used. A few FG42s will appear in the hands of paratroopers, but also Waffen SS units due to limited model arrangements. Edited ammo and magazine capacity for the MG42 and FG42 to match their real life counterparts. Adjusted reload times of the MG42 and Panzerschreck to be longer, and the American M9 bazooka in Downfall is replaced by a Panzerschreck. Further additions include German half-tracks with Nordland insignia, era-appropriate textures for canned food, new textures for German propaganda posters, the sign for the non-existent town of Vendy is replaced with a sign of an actual local town in the northern part of Silo Heights, while Zugstation, which is a terrible German translation for train station, is blurred out, but note that it will be changed into Bahnhof for future updates. Signposts in Ring of Steel are also changed to match with the northern Berlin districts, while U-Bahn signposts, which are based on several U-Bahn stations in the central part of Berlin, together with extra textures from manual installation, are available too. On top of this, we also have the removal of the dates in Ring of Steel, Blood and Iron and Eviction's intro, since they are not appropriate to the events depicted. The replacement of the Reichstag at the end of Ring of Steel with regular Berlin buildings, as the Reichstag was not located anywhere near Pankow, Berlin, which this mission is located in. And finally, we have the introduction of a more accurate Victory Banner flag raised atop of the Reichstag, based on Victory Banner number 5, which is one of the official flags raised atop of the building at the midnight between April 30th and May 1st, 1945, which was claimed to have survived the artillery and mortar bombardment, and a couple of days later the Soviets then removed this flag before adding inscriptions on it and sending it to Moscow, where it remains to this day. According to this mod's creators, which include GI Combat, Horizon, Panzerman and Warrior 300, all the mods within this series will receive new updates in the future, with several additional changes, such as a new uniform for Commissioner Markov, since he should be a political officer, since the term Commissioner ceased to exist after 1942, date removal for a hard landing and burn them out, aforementioned complete changes on Zug Station sign, the fixing of the hammer and sickle on Soviet headgear so it is not backwards, changing the rare golden party badges on some of the models into regular party membership badges, changing head model arrangements for Hitler Youth units, add and change more details for some German models, and the crows in Vendetta will be changed to look more like Eastern European hooded crows, while the remaining crow models will be the Western European carrion crows. Better yet, they are involved in an even bigger project, which is still a work in progress, known as the MAM mod, which will introduce even greater details, such as the removal of the side armor on the Panzer IV tanks, since they were a feature of the Aus H/J variants introduced a year after the Vendetta mission, new custom more accurate level descriptions, and variations of character models such as these custom rendered Soviet snappers and female Red Army soldiers, as well as new custom weapons like the 1912 shotgun, M3 grease gun, M19 revolver, M11 shotgun, M50 Rising, Type 38, ZB26, MP41, MP38, scoped STG-44, Flammenwerfer 35, MP28, MG34, scoped Gewehr 43, M1928 with 50 round drum mag, PO8 Luger, Mauser Model 712, PPS 43 and Volksgewehr, as well as loads of other awesome additional stuff. And on top of this, I myself have been in direct contact with these mod developers and researchers who have teamed up with me to help in consulting and gathering more historical information in the making of past and future videos for this channel's Historical Inaccuracies series as well. So absolutely massive thanks to these talented creators. The links to their socials along with all the mods shown in this video will be in the description. If you wish to see our last video where we listed every historical inaccuracy in Call of Duty World at War, then click on screen now and I'll see you there to compare and see how many inaccuracies listed in that video were fixed with this mod. Please consider liking, subscribing, or even becoming a channel member. This has been the Frosty One, out.